What's up, everyone? I'm Nick Campo. This is
Big Boss Ben.
Big Boss Ben, and we are
the Lone Guys Podcast.
Thank you for joining us. We're coming to you from the Campo Media Group studios. This is presented by NBI Financial Group LLC, the best mortgage company in the United States. We're licensed in North and South Carolina. If you need a mortgage, please let us know. We have a great show. Before we start the show, please go to all of our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and follow us. We are NBI Financial Group on all of them. Personally, you can follow me. I'm Mortgage Man Nick and
Big Boss Ben. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Awesome. What do you got for us today, Ben?
So going over a few things, a lot of global news out there circulating around currency. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about it. So first off, I want to talk about the U.S. and their implementation of their new e-currency that the IRS is rolling out.
Always a bad idea when the IRS and the U.S. government are rolling out an e-currency. But what's your thoughts?
I mean, my thoughts on it. So what they are saying, the benefits of it are that it's going to help in terms of like anti-money laundering, help stop like crime by being able to track it. It's also going to increase the speed of being able to transfer things, especially internationally. My thoughts on that though are that, I mean, if they can track criminals like that, they can track the everyday person. And when does it get too much for the government to have information on everyone?
Like, it's already too much. They've already overstepped their boundaries. They did it with the Patriot Act. They do it with all these other acts. These acts come out, and these laws that are passed, they have very fancy names. Right. They sound nice. They sound like they're helpful. They pitch it as, oh, the U.S. government's doing X, Y, and Z. This is what it's going to be. This is what we're going to do. It's going to help you. It's for the good of you and everybody else. But guess what? It's not actually for the good of you. And they typically overstep their boundaries. And do you trust the U.S. government being able to track everything you do and be able to seize your bank account like that? How about the IRS? To all my servers out there, all my people who are, restaurant workers, servers, get tipped wages. Do you want the IRS tracking every single dollar? How about you who has somebody who comes to your house, maybe cuts your grass for you and you pay him $60 cash? That person doesn't have to claim the taxes. Now they do because everything's going to be e-currency. And they might not say, hey, we're going away from the U.S. dollar this second and we're going to the U.S. e-currency, but that's the direction it's headed. And how much can they manipulate the currency at that point?
I mean, tremendously. I mean, and thinking about it too, like how much easier is it going to be for them to even make more? Like we're talking about e-currency. It's natural to kind of come and compare it to like Bitcoin.
It's not Bitcoin.
It's not. It's definitely not. But I'm just saying that being both electronically based, it's easy to make that comparison. But let's compare the two.
Yeah, let's do it.
You look at it like what makes Bitcoin? Why is Bitcoin as valuable as you are?
It's decentralized.
Yes. First off, it's decentralized. Second off, it's a fixed amount, and I can't overstate that.
21 million total that will ever exist, and there's not even 21 million yet. There's a fixed amount. It'll never be more than that. It's decentralized.
Yep.
Where this e-currency is centralized. The other piece is I mean, I guess you can track transactions on the blockchain. They've found Bitcoin hackers and things like that because you can track it on the blockchain and follow the transactions, and that's fine. But here's the big part is at some point we have to stop trusting the government and definitely stop trusting these big corporations. There's major banks, and this is a little conspiracy theory. There's major banks who've cut off people like Kanye West. They've cut off people like Alex Jones, and they come out with these excuses. But yeah, you don't have to agree with everything these people say. I don't agree with everything they say. I don't think that Sandy Hook was fake. That's what Alex Jones got in trouble for. I don't think that Nazis are good. That's what Kanye West got in trouble for. But at some point we have to say if they aren't causing harm or violence to people, hurting someone's feelings, that's not violence. We have to believe in free speech. Elon Musk is a big one on it. He bought Twitter, $44 billion because he believes in free speech. Well, it makes me nervous that we're going to be going to an e-currency. Corporations are in cahoots with the government. We all know that.
Yep. And
now banks that already have a history of cutting people off. Our government already has a history of seizing U.S. dollar reserves, which has put us in a pretty bad spot globally, and we'll get to that next. But it makes me nervous saying, okay, well, if I say something that they don't like, are they going to put pressure on a technology company or these banks to stop me from banking with them? I mean, they've done it. He
brought up Twitter. Like, I mean,
Twitter
it's
files.
happened with social media. Like,
oh yeah, the Twitter files. Everyone, This is not conspiracy. This is factual stuff that's in writing. U.S. government agencies working with Twitter, trying to censor and block people. You know, they blocked all the COVID information about vaccines and stuff, and they labeled it misinformation, and they would get people banned for speaking out against it. Dr. Robert Malone, who has an actual patent in mRNA technologies, they had him banned. And now it comes out what he was saying is true. Vaccine injuries. People didn't want to talk about the vaccine injuries with this mRNA. And now you have the European countries doing huge investigations and removing liability protections from corporations. These big corporations such as Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and things of that nature. But that was all labeled inappropriate at one point, and people were getting banned, demonetized, and so on and so forth. Imagine if they could have controlled all the money because it was electronic as well. You're putting yourself as a U.S. citizen in a bad situation, as a citizen of the world in a bad situation. But the thing about the U.S. and I'm going to focus mainly on the U.S. and not as much internationally,
right,
is the U.S. has always been known to be a free country. We're the people who stood up and said, don't fuck with me.
Right.
And now it's like we got a bunch of sheep that rolled over, and look at what's going on. It's absolutely wild, right? And I don't want to get too... I don't want to get too far down the quote-unquote conspiracy rabbit hole, but it's kind of wild how all these conspiracy theories are now turning out to be true. And when these conspiracy theories that are now true were first said, Hunter Biden's laptop before the last election, that was all censored. They literally had the New York Post, the oldest paper in the country, removed from Twitter and not allowed to post for publishing the Hunter Biden laptop story. It's all true.
Which is wild.
It's all true. The pictures of him smoking crack with underage girls, that's true. That happened.
Right.
And it's been proven now by the FBI and other places. So,
well, and I mean, you bring up like freedom of speech, like media. It's looking at the history of the media. At one point, it was a major part of the checks and balances of our government. Like it was there as the watchdog of the government. It was there supposed to keep them honest, supposed to make sure that they did what they had to. Now the media
was journalists, though. That was journalists. What we have now,
yes,
there's not many journalists. Matt Taibbi, you got Glenn Greenwald. There's some good ones out there who do some investigative reporting. You know, people like James O'Keefe and people of that nature, right?
It's a dying breed.
But it is a dying breed.
And now, like, most of them are more corrupt than as corrupt as the government. Like, and I mean, to your point, like, how as a journalist, how can you honor your profession by writing something that you know is not true?
You can't. And but they aren't journalists, Ben. They're reporters, and they're basically a paid arm of the government. It's just crazy. But what I'm getting at, and let's go back to the e-currency, and let's go back to that, is one, it's going to make it seem like life is easier. But guess what happens when everything's electronic and you aren't spending cash? You actually spend more money. They've found there's a study that you spend more money by just swiping your debit card.
I believe it.
Cash is a good thing to have on hand. The other thing that happens is it's easy to get you banned. It's easy to seize your assets. The IRS wants this because why? They're going to go after everybody that they think should owe more in taxes. So what if the government keeps up in taxes? At some point, as a people, wouldn't we have to revolt? I have a saying: no taxation with or without representation. Soon to be a T-shirt. But what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing? Why are we giving a government body this much control? The government's corrupt.
Yeah.
All governments are corrupt. It's why we have the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms. So now the government's going to have control over this quote-unquote e-currency? Sign me up. Do not sign me up. But it is what it is, and I definitely don't trust our government after seeing the way they handled the reserves, the
right.
Russian reserves that were U.S. dollars, Russian-owned U.S. dollars that they had for reserves. When Russia invades Ukraine, they seized those reserves. What? Like, how can you do that?
Yeah.
That's not a good thing for our country. Like, I don't think people realize, like, you can disagree with the Russia invading Ukraine. You can think Russia's an aggressor, the big bad bully, whatever you think. By us going in and seizing the reserves, the U.S. dollar reserves of the Russian government, we just undermined our own currency to the rest of the world. What do you think is going to happen when it's an e-currency? It's easy to be manipulated.
Easier, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, in every sense, like, from that, it's easier to be tracked. It's easier to make more of. Like, we're coming off right now. Like, look at inflation. It is going to be even easier for that. So the excuse to it's it's going to be even easier. Like you said, I mean, compare Amazon. If it's easy to do, you're going to spend more. Like, I mean, I think every person out there can relate to it. Amazon is super easy to spend on.
And you do.
And you do. Yeah. I mean, it's a brilliant business model because they make it so easy. If the government has that option, they're going to do it. And they're already mass overspending. I mean, it's...
Well, it goes to what our next topic is the BRICS nations,
yes.
right? So if you're, what is that? What's the BRICS nation stands for? It's something. Oh, Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
It used to be BRIC, and now it's BRICS because Saudi Arabia has agreed to do not all of them, but some of their oil trades are going to be using the Chinese currency, which is the most manipulated currency in the history of the world. So that's pretty stupid. But at the same time, do I blame these nations for trying to trade in the Chinese yuan instead of trading in the U.S. dollar? Well, I mean, like I said, we went in and we seized an entire country's reserve currency, which is the U.S. dollar. We seized the U.S. dollars owned by Russia. We keep printing more money.
That's
my homegirl Janet Yellen. Fucking love her, right? Not. She's such an idiot. She comes out and testifies before Congress that they are going to increase the deficit next year, meaning increase our debt to $50 trillion. That's 17 trillion more dollars than it is this year. Trillion, T with a T, right? Well, if you're a nation and you see this other nation that keeps printing money and getting more and more into debt, it's weakening the U.S. dollar. Now I can't even trust that my U.S. dollars are safe because if I do something that the Biden administration doesn't like, they're just going to seize my money. How dumb. How dumb. The last thing we need as a country is for us not to be the world reserve anymore. Because if we're not the world reserve currency anymore, the U.S. dollar will collapse.
It's coming. It's just a matter of when.
It doesn't have to, but it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to come.
But there's still right now we're still in a massive lead. I don't have the numbers in front, but it's
68%.
Yeah,
it's a massive lead.
It's still a massive lead.
It does not have to come. You think it does?
Historically, every global currency has lasted about 200 years. We at the most.
Guess what? Strengthen the currency
at that time.
Okay, I don't give a damn about the time. Why did they fail? They failed printing money,
right?
Putting money into war. Every
exactly
nation
what we're doing.
You know what exactly what we're doing, but it doesn't have to be that way because the current administration, it wasn't that way. It just wasn't. The money didn't start getting printed until when?
Till Bush. I mean, Ukraine was one.
I'm talking about our previous administration. They were actually cutting the deficit until COVID hit, and they had to print all. They shut down the government. Terrible decision. Right. They shut down the country. Terrible decision. They printed a bunch of money and sent out checks to people. Right. Yes. That's when it started getting printed, and then it's just gotten worse under this administration. I don't give a damn what anyone says. It's gotten worse. You can stop the spending of money. You can stop the bloat in the government.
Oh, it has definitely gotten worse.
You can stop, but what I'm saying is you can stop it. You can stop this from happening. We do not have to lose our status as the world reserve currency. We don't have to do it. But if we keep making these bad decisions, because that's what this is bad decisions, then we will lose the world reserve currency. And that's going to hurt every American here, especially since we don't believe in being energy independent anymore. But I mean, seriously. We don't have the oil reserves we used to have. The dollar is called the petrodollar. Look it up. We're losing our status and we're losing our grip and our control as the U.S. As the reserve currency in the world. It was supposed to be backed up and be the petrodollar, but Saudi Arabia is not going to trade petroleum, oil in the Chinese yuan. We are in trouble if we don't right the ship. But I disagree with what you're saying. I don't think we have to lose the U.S. reserve currency. We need good leadership that starts making good decisions, and we won't lose that.
I mean, I agree we don't have to lose it, but I think we will.
Great. So you're a pessimist.
I have no trust in the government.
Okay. So what do you do? What do you do? We just sit here and we lose it? Because here's the deal. If we lose the U.S. reserve currency, there's going to be a lot of pain. That means a lot of people who have money in this country will no longer have that money. Their money won't be worth what they think it was. Yeah. So what do you do?
I mean, what you do is you look into all the other options, like crypto. Like there are other options out there, and I'm not saying go full crypto, whatever is doom and gloom. Like it's going to take a while for it to get to that point too. I don't think it's not going to be overnight that the U.S. dollar loses. Like like we said, I mean, there's a massive lead still. That being said, I mean, I think if you do need to look into other options. And I think diversifying into crypto is like one of those options, just because it's going to be stable and it's going to be not as dependent upon one global currency.
Maybe it'll be stable, but I mean, we saw a 40% reduction in the cost of Bitcoin. Went from almost $100,000 down to it's at 30 something right now. It was 68,000 to it's at 33 right now for a Bitcoin. So
right, it dropped with the news of the $E and everything. I don't.
No, it didn't. It's up now. I'm talking about over the past year. Yeah, it's up like 3 or 4% today. But what I'm saying to you is, it goes like this.
Right.
Massive swings right now because there's not. And the theory is more people investing into it, the less the swings will be.
Right.
Hodl, hold. Right. But I don't know. There's nothing good there's no way to prevent the loss of wealth to every citizen of this country if we lose U.S. reserve currency. Yeah, look into other options, but whatever is in U.S. dollar, you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? I mean, you're sitting there in silence like I'm a crazy person.
I mean, then what do?
You fucking vote in better people.
Yeah.
You vote in better people and you start paying attention. Why do we have this podcast?
Spread information.
Spread information. Start paying attention to what people are saying. And even if you don't believe everything I'm saying or Ben's saying or anybody's saying, what do? Go out and research it yourself. I'm not sitting here trying to spread misinformation and lies. That's not what I'm doing. I am telling you what's actually happening in the world. Brazil, Russia, India, China, Saudi Arabia, and they're trying to add more, are trying to get rid of the U.S. dollar as the U.S. reserve currency. Right. The Saudi prince came out and said, I don't care what the United States wants anymore. That's supposed to be one of our biggest allies.
Yes.
So what do? What you need to vote in politicians who are better politicians. Better politicians. As much as people hated Trump, he was a way better politician than the ones that are in here because guess what? This would not have happened under him because he was crazy and they were afraid that he was crazy. One of the biggest compliments you can give a U.S. president is calling them crazy. Because if the other nations think you're crazy enough, they aren't going to screw with you. And that's what these nations are doing. We are looked at by the world as weak. And as much as we want to think in this country it's so bad, this, that, and the other thing, and men are so bad, and this, that, and everybody's bad and bad and bad, it's not true. Like, we are the good of the world. Now, I don't agree with being involved in Russia, Ukraine, or all these global wars. I believe in more of a nationalist approach where we are concerned with our country and our country a majority. Obviously, we still have to police the world to an extent, but man alive, vote in better politicians and this stuff wouldn't be happening. And people don't realize we're really close to nuclear war and we're really close to losing the United States dollar as a reserve currency. And I don't blame other countries, and I don't blame Russia from wanting to go away from it. I don't blame China. I don't blame these other countries because we literally took the reserves that another country paid for and took that money back and tried to call it a great sanction. It wasn't a great sanction.
No, we weaponized the dollar, the international currency. How do you expect other people to react when you essentially we have now shown that we're willing to use that as a weapon,
which is terrible. It's like when you tell kids. You tell parents not to use their kids against their parents as a weapon. You don't want to use the dollar as a weapon either.
No,
because now you lose trust and you lose faith in the dollar.
Right.
Going away from the gold standard, terrible idea. Terrible idea. We would not be in this situation. I don't think people realize how dangerous the debt is. There's some debt that's good debt, but when you just keep printing and you have fools like Janet Yellen and I guess Jerome Powell and the Fed chair and all these idiots out there, it's just you're hurting yourself. So
right. And I mean, you mentioned earlier about Janet Yellen too. I mean, to me, the bigger concern right now is the debt ceiling.
Right.
I mean, you look at it; it's at 31.4 trillion right now. That is coming up in July. Either they have to find a way to actually make a payment or extend the debt ceiling.
They need to make a payment.
Yeah, they do, but they're not going to. It's going to be extended. It's just a matter of how much.
You sure?
I mean, I feel
there's a lot of people in the House that are saying no.
There's a lot of Republicans in the House that don't want that, but I mean, what's going to happen if they don't do it? Then all of a sudden the U.S. defaults on it. And you talk about like that's going to be even worse. If the U.S. goes in default on it, talk about losing trust. Talk about the housing. Right. Yeah, you need to make a payment, but if both sides aren't willing to do so, what's going to happen? The U.S. defaults. I mean, we talk about like this is a real estate and mortgage show. Like that's going to directly affect the bond market, most of all, almost. Like, and you talk about what that's going to do. I mean, people are going to lose faith in even bonds because the U.S. is not going to be able to make their payments. This is the biggest thing right now that needs to be addressed. Like it is an absolute. It's the most critical part of our country right now, and it's coming up in July, is the deadline for it. So if people don't get on the same page now and start making payments, like this is what people need to be worried about. And Janet Yellen's over here talking about, what's so frustrating about when Janet Yellen, she was talking about banks, like picking and choosing which banks to bail out and this and that. She has the biggest deadline and I mean, of the last 4 years in the U.S. history. And that's what she's worried about. Like, it's just ridiculous because, and the overspending is just absolutely insane. Like, and you talk about inflation. What can we do to improve inflation? Like, well, stop spending, get the budget in line. Well, I mean, our budget has not been in line since Bill Clinton was in office.
You have to pay down the debt.
Yes.
Pay down the actual debt, not just make the interest payments on the debt.
And regardless, right. And regardless of what side you win, every single president, it's increased. You go from Bush, it started over, Bill Clinton had it balanced. Bush started spending, Obama spent even more. Trump was improving it. And then COVID happened and overspent. And now it's is an all-time high. Like, where does it end?
My question is, what do you think our gold reserves look like?
I mean, I think.
Do you know the gold? Do you know that the gold that they used to do an audit on gold? It hasn't happened in like 30 years. We have no idea but guess who's been buying a ton of gold?
Oh, all the BRICS countries.
Tons of gold. They're going to try to back their currency with gold. I guarantee it. And if they tie their currency to gold, we're screwed. Like that. You said it won't happen quickly? Like that. Like that. Now you're trading in the Chinese currency for oil. We're the petrodollar. And then they tie it to gold.
Yeah.
You're fucked.
Right. And we have way too much money in circulation to go back.
You would literally.
It's impossible. Like, unless gold increases in value like 100 times, more than 100 times.
Yeah, I don't know. Going away from the gold standard was stupid. There was other ulterior motives to that. Look that up. People call it conspiracy, but it's actually come out on like government release. They have to release their document dumps every 7 years or something, and it's come out, and we're in trouble. And I think we can get out of it with strong politicians and with strong leaders. The one thing we have going for us is we produce, and we can produce more than anybody else. We'll just take our factories back, and you can go to almost like a nationalist society, not completely closed border type of thing where you don't trade at all, but you can go back to producing all your own stuff.
Right.
So that would help us, and it wouldn't hurt us as bad, but it would be like ripping off a Band-Aid. So,
yeah.
You have anything you want to tell the people?
It really would. Yeah, while we're at it, make sure to hit that subscribe button, click the like button as well, and hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime we post a video. We talk about all things mortgage and real estate and, I mean, just overall economy.
How to build wealth through real estate. We talk about stuff that can affect the real estate market, which the U.S. reserve currency would affect the real estate market.
Yes, it would.
The BRICS nations trading for petroleum. It would affect all this stuff. It plays into what we do and what our home values are worth and what everything is worth in this country. And what really affects it and how we got started on it is, Janet Yellen's and, up in the debt and so on and so forth.
The misinformation out there.
It does. But you know what else?
What?
We're giving away $1,000 on September 1st. $1,000. The Loan Guys podcast, brought to you by NBI Financial Group, the company Ben and I own, is giving away $1,000. You know what you have to do, Ben?
What do you have to do?
All you have to do is bang that red subscribe button and turn on your notifications and comment on our videos. And at the end of your comment, leave your Instagram handle. If you do that, Every comment you make with your Instagram handle gives you an opportunity to earn $1,000. And don't just comment great video. You have to actually give us your thoughts and have a conversation about what you're seeing and what our thoughts are. Give your opinion on this podcast, on the topics that we talk about. Don't just say great video and put your Instagram handle. That doesn't count. Make an actual comment. Show that you watched the video. Watch the videos until the end and leave your comment with your Instagram handle. Bang the red subscribe button, turn on notifications, and we will enter you each time you do that into a drawing. And the winner of the drawing on September 1st will win $1,000, and they'll have the choice: do you want $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, or do you want $1,000 worth of US dollars? Pretty fair, right?
Very fair.
Cool. What's the next topic?
Let me read you a couple comments.
From what?
Real quick. So it's from a YouTube video, a Graham Stephen YouTube video.
I like Graham sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. This is on kind of what we were talking about earlier. So Bitcoin doesn't need any action to boost the price. It's a unique coin, as well as the mothership of cryptocurrency, which is considered as digital gold, and is used as an asset to store for big investors. So as long as the digital world exists,
it's a storage value.
Bitcoin will continue to be king.
Bitcoin is king because it's a storage of value.
Right. So it's essentially what he's saying, and I think
gold.
It's the gold standard of digital
but that's
currency.
What gold is. Gold isn't an investment you put your money in to make millions of dollars, and neither is Bitcoin. When Bitcoin gets to where it needs to be, it's going to hold its value very well.
Yeah,
it's not going to go up 30%, down 30%, but it needs to get to a certain level. It needs to have institutions investing in it. It will be a storage of value.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that puts it extremely.
I mean,
well.
I own Bitcoin.
Yeah. I think a lot of people should. Like, I think it's but I mean, always diversify.
Yeah. I own XRP too.
Here's a comment. Using currency as a weapon should be one of the important reasons for de-dollarization.
Yes. Agreed.
We talked about that. America is currently plagued by the hydra-headed evil duo of inflation and recession. The worst part about this recession is that consumers are racking up credit cards. In April alone, credit card debt went up 20%, while rates have doubled in a year. Inflation is so high that consumers are literally taking out debt for basic life necessities. The collapse has begun.
I wonder what they mean by the collapse has begun.
They mean that, how do you get out of it?
Well, inflation is going to go down.
Right. And interest rates will go down eventually.
It's cycles. It all goes in cycles. That's why I'm not too concerned about the U.S. us losing the reserve currency for the U.S. dollar being the reserve currency. I'm not too concerned about it. I do think that we need the debt ceiling is an issue. The debt is an issue. We need to figure out how to start paying off these trillions of dollars. We need to really look at what are we spending our money on. So, yeah.
I like this comment too. It's not worrying about the U.S. dollar no longer being the global reserve currency. It's acknowledging the possibility and accounting for it in the way we diversify our savings and investments, and the way that we educate and prepare our children who will be living in the affected generations.
They will be, but we can fix it.
Yeah.
Our generation can fix this. It's not the people who are currently there. We need to get better leaders in office. We can fix this situation. All these old people, it's time to retire. Daddy's home.
I mean, that's something I've been saying for years is term limits. Bring on term limits. Like the only way that we can make change, and this is the great way that being an American is you can vote. You can make change through vote. Every single person has the ability to do that. But you have to actually have people in there who want to make change. Every politician goes in there. I believe every politician has these great ideas, and then they compromise, and they end up not being who they were when they first got in office. How do you fix that? Term limits.
They don't compromise. They become corrupt. There's a difference.
Right. By compromising so much that they give up who they are.
No, that's not true. They compromise to make money. A lot of them are bought by foreign places that are putting money into lobbyists. A lot of them are bought by corporations for donations. They're not sacrificing. A majority of them are there that they've become corrupt.
Yeah.
And the best leaders in society, they don't want to be politicians.
But yeah, I mean, it all comes down into putting the best people in office who are most fit to do that. And by doing that, like I said, term limits, as well as, I mean, a multi-party system, not a bipartisan system. You don't need people that are voting, just red or blue. Like, vote for the actual candidate. Do your research, vote for the candidate.
That's a big change.
I mean, that's a massive change. I mean, so are term limits. But you have people in there with new ideas that are going to come in that is how you actually make change. That is actually how you have things moving in the right direction.
You want to know how I think you do it?
How?
Go back to state government.
Oh, yeah.
Small government, local government.
But
the federal government
federal
overseas.
Currency is not part of that. And that's what we're talking so much about.
Yeah, but I understand. But the problem is you would have to get people with some type of business acumen into right. Congress, into Senate, and we don't have that. We have the losers of society who want power, who are corrupted individuals, who would trade stock on insider secrets, controlling the House.
Because they're career politicians. So how do you fix that?
How do you get
term limits?
Okay, well, how do you get somebody to run? That doesn't fix it. How do you fix the problem? Stop allowing corporations and these and foreign agents and places like that to infiltrate our systems with their money and prop up these broke ass politicians who want to become rich. Bernie Sanders, man, he's a perfect example. Multimillionaire now. We need to tax the millionaires and billionaires. Now he's a multimillionaire. Now he needs to tax the billionaires. There's more examples than that. I mean, shoot, look at the Biden crime family, man. Like, for real, like, how many millions of dollars did Hunter Biden get from the Chinese government? A lot. Yeah. 31 million. That's a report that just came out. That's a true story. Like, it's just, these people are corrupt and they're the worst in society. You can't fix it with term limits. Term limits will help. I'm not saying it won't. What needs to happen is we need to take the big money out of politics, and it needs to be looked at as a civic duty, which it was designed to be.
Yes.
And we need to elect people within our communities that we know are fit to lead, and then they need to carry forward what we elected them for. When we elected Obama in 2008, ran on securing the borders, a lot of the same ideas that Trump had, but it didn't happen. We need to hold them accountable, but we don't. We don't pay attention. We're fat and lazy as a country. 50% of America is now obese. Like, it's just, it's not, we're not in a good position to be able to do anything of substance and change. And it sounds very negative, but like, hey, an alcoholic has to admit that they're an alcoholic before they can change their habits. A liar has to admit that they're a liar before they stop lying. Somebody who's delusional on reality has to admit that, hey, I haven't been in reality. What's really going on is this, before they start being in reality. You have to admit your problems before you can fix them. And our problem as a country, we need to admit that we're fat, we're lazy, we're comfortable, and we're just allowing things to happen that our ancestors would not have. Do you have anything else? Like, I want to talk about housing, though. I'm not a politics person.
Yeah, no, let's switch it up. So, recent news: FHA has announced that they are now having 40-year mortgages.
Go into details on that. I don't think 40-year mortgages are good, but go into detail. I don't think they save that much either, but
we'll see. So I mean, a lot of people out there, it's kind of become it's kind of become viral. A lot of people are talking about it. However, right now it is only applying for modifications. Basically, the whole reasoning of it is hey, if you are out there, if you are struggling to make your mortgage payment, one thing that FHA will allow you to do is to change the structure of your loan to be over 40 years instead of the 30 or whatever term you had before.
It's only saving you $150.
That's going to lower your
mortgage.
Yeah, so that would lower your payment. I mean, going from a 15 to a 30 year makes a massive difference. Going from a 30 to a 40, because it's exponential increases. So what was that?
It was something like $150 on a $300,000 mortgage. It's nothing crazy.
See, that's not much.
No.
At the end of the day, and that's what we always preach. Like,
depends on your interest rate too.
Yeah, but I mean, even talking about interest rates, like at the end of the day, your interest rate is not the number that really matters. It's the overall payment. It's what is it doing for your cash flow? Like, that is what really matters. Now, going to a 40-year, yeah, it's going to help a lot of people. I mean, at the same interest rate, I mean, why not do it? I mean, it's going to save you money per month that you can use for other investments or pay extra and actually build more equity. Like, that would help as well. So I mean, I definitely don't think it's a bad thing for that. I think it's also interesting because, and I mean, we've been talking about, this has been rumored for years about, oh, it's going to go to a 40-year mortgage at some point. It's going to go there. This is the first real step towards that by like an actual major.
Yeah,
I mean, FHA is announcing this. This isn't like a private investor. This is an actual, yeah.
So here's my thoughts on the 40-year mortgage.
Yeah.
Is it really good?
Why do you ask? Because we're putting people on with a mortgage for 40 years, or
look at how much interest they're paying on that, right? So our whole thing is, how do you build wealth through real estate? Is that helping someone build wealth? Well, maybe it helps them with their cash flow a little bit, but it's very minimal. How much more are you paying over the life of that loan, right? And the primary residence, one of the things that we preach is to try to pay off the primary residence as quick as possible. That's not doing it. The other piece is we talk about leveraging debt on investment properties.
Yeah.
Getting to 6 investment properties and then paying them off within 14 years by applying the cash flow, and the amortization speaks for itself. How is that helping people?
Because I think it all depends on what you do with the money. Because I mean, we've talked about it before, like the difference between a 15 and a 30 year,
That's
right?
A big difference,
like,
though.
It's a much bigger difference in payment. Absolutely. Like, I mean, saving $1,000 is completely different than
the interest rate's also lower on
a 15 year
than it is on a 30.
Correct. And that's why it depends on what the rate would be for a 40 year.
I was looking, the rate goes up. So it's offsetting the cost of the 10 years.
Then yeah.
Not completely, but to a point where I was looking at it, I was like, this doesn't make much sense. I mean, it makes sense if you absolutely are desperate. Like, why am I going to go and modify my mortgage to go for a 30-year to a 40-year? For $100 a month? Like, I'm going to pick up a second job, do something, right?
Right.
And now, granted, I know it's a tough environment, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, it's just like, come on, man. Like, at some point, it does not, like, it's not beneficial to stay in debt longer, and it's not beneficial to pay more in interest. Now, you'll argue, okay, well, what about the gain of appreciation for keeping the home? Okay, like, I can give you that. Okay, yep, take the appreciation gain depending on what it is, but do the numbers. Does it make sense? I'm not for staying in a primary residence mortgage longer than you need to.
I mean, I agree that there's just the counter argument, but I mean, it's like, what you do with that extra money and cash flow each month? Is there a way that you can invest that, or can you put it down in extra payments? Can you put it in some other investment that will allow you to pay it off sooner?
Yes, agreed.
That being said, it sounds like
if you're in an FHA mortgage and you have to go from 30 to 40 years, do you think that you're doing the best thing with your cash flow?
I mean, to save like $100 with a higher interest rate, probably not.
No, but I'm asking you a serious question. If you have to modify your mortgage, because this is what it is, it's a mortgage modification to go from 30 to 40 years, that extra cash flow is not going to pay down your mortgage. Correct. That extra cash flow, I don't know what the extra cash flow is going for, but that's not a situation where a majority of clients
are going to be able to
apply extra to their mortgage. It's just not. FHA in general, a majority of clients who get into FHA, it's a great tool to home ownership. And I believe in home ownership. I believe it can be a great tool, but you have to also look at it as a majority of the client who goes FHA, they don't have the extra cash flow to pay down their mortgage.
Yeah.
I mean, am I wrong?
You're not wrong, but I mean, you also said it too, like, but you keep the house and the appreciation is where you really.
Okay. So you better do the numbers on the projected appreciation and make sure that you're projected to appreciate at more than what it's costing you in interest, because if not, then what the freak is the point of the appreciation?
Right.
Right. Like, so you have to look at that. And just, if you're doing a mortgage modification, I don't think you're looking at that. You're looking at, how do I save my home right now? Great. If you do that, and you have to do this, and you have to go from a 30-year to a 40-year to save your home, do that. But as soon as you're able to, and you need to become able to. Does that mean find a second job? Go drive Uber on the side. Go find a better job that pays more. Do something. Pay off whatever the debt or whatever is causing you not to be able to afford your 30-year mortgage that you used to be able to afford. Do that, and then refinance out of that thing as quickly as you can into a shorter term. Pay less in interest. Why are you going to cost yourself a bunch of money in interest payments? It's like I'm looking at it as credit card debt. to an extent, right? Except
Yeah.
you're gaining appreciation here. So that does offset some of the debt. But if you're upping from a 30 to a 40 year, like the average age of a first time home buyer is 33 years old. You stay in a 40-year mortgage, or it's 35 years old now. You stay in a 40-year mortgage, you're 75 when you pay it off.
That's a long, yeah.
That's a long damn time.
Well, we talked earlier about freedom, like from the, like that's a part of it. Like that's freedom too. Like we were talking about having trust in the government will like being able to track everything you're doing. I mean, freedom also applies to being able to own your home outright, like, and being working towards that. The equity that you have is your own property that you actually outright own.
Right.
If it takes you longer to do that, that's less property you own over your life.
Right. 100%.
So, I mean, that being said, like it can be a great tool. So, I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing by any means. But you're right. I mean, do your due diligence, like understand what it takes and understand what your options are to prevent that. Because I mean, before you make that decision.
Yeah, you need to look at all the numbers. You got to make sure it makes sense. Work with a great mortgage broker.
Yeah.
So if you haven't done it yet, go ahead and bang that red subscribe button, turn on notifications. You are going to want to be following us. So bang it, turn on the notifications, and you may have an opportunity to win $1,000. Follow us on all our social media, NBI Financial Group LLC. We're on everything: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We're big on YouTube. We're big on all of it, right? So go ahead, bang the red subscribe button, turn on notifications. If you want a chance to win $1,000 on September 1st, you need to be subscribed, have the notifications on, and comment on our videos and leave your handle. The more comments, the more entries into the chance to win $1,000. We're going to give it away either in Bitcoin or U.S. currency, whatever you choose. Don't be one of those people who says, great video. Actually talk about the video. If you just say great video, I'm not entering you into the contest. So you better talk about the video. All right, Ben, what's our next topic?
So this will probably be the last topic, probably. But so ICE, that's the company that owns Encompass for all you mortgage professionals. They recently did a poll of home buyers to kind of see what they were looking for in a lender. The number 57% of them said that their number one consideration, their top consideration, is flexibility. I'm just saying, if mortgage brokers have the most flexibility out there for consumers.
So you're saying, okay, let's back it up. So what you're telling me is ICE, who owns Encompass,
right,
sent out a survey. Do you know how many people the survey went to?
I do not.
I would like to know that number because, I want to make sure it's statistically significant, but I'm going to assume it was 100,000 or more.
Okay.
1,000 or more is pretty significant, but 100,000, I'm going to say. And you're saying that they said the number one thing they want in a lender is flexibility. So what flexibility to me means is they want more products, they want more options, they want more option when it comes to interest rate.
Right.
That's what flexibility means to me.
That yes, I mean more options.
So they just defined a mortgage broker.
Exactly.
Retail lenders are on the way out.
I mean, it's coming. What, at 33% market share?
33% projected to go up to 45% in over the next 5 years. So
another interesting topic that came out of that from that poll: 53% of home buyers thought that you had to put at least 10% down to buy a home. There is so much misinformation out there. Clients just are not. The education just isn't out there.
You can put.
That's why you need to
buy a home.
Yeah, you can. I mean, there's new programs out there. I mean, down payment assistance programs.
DPA, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are plenty of good. You do not have to have thousands of dollars in the bank to buy a home. Tens of thousands of dollars. You don't have to put 20% down, 10% down. Like, you have options.
You do.
And that's what, and I mean, we've talked about this earlier in the episode. Like, part of why we did what we did is because there is so much misinformation out there. And what we want to do is be able to educate and inform and let our clients be able to make the best decision for them, knowing all of their options. And I mean, this shows me that people still don't understand that.
No, they don't.
So,
I mean, and they're not going to. It's our job to bring the information to the people, and we have
Right.
to do it. We create content. We're trying to bring the information to you. We want people to understand that homeownership is a responsibility, or is an option, but it is also a big responsibility. You have to be financially fit to own a home, right? So I will say you can build massive wealth through real estate, but I'm not going to tell you to go and build wealth through real estate if you can't balance your checkbook, right? So it comes with a few things. One, you better have a goal. Number two, you better have a plan. And then you better take action to achieve that goal that you made the plan for. And it's all about action. So if you came to me, Ben, and let's just use you as an example, and you say, hey, Nick, I want to own a home. I don't have a primary residence. I'm renting. I'm basically lighting my money on fire. Because if you are renting, you're essentially, you are lighting your money on fire. You will never see that back again. Where if you own a home throughout the history of the United States, home values have increased. So when you went to sell that home, not only have you paid down the principal, so you have more equity there, so you're getting some of that money back, but what have you also done? You've also gained an appreciation, so you can possibly make a profit off that home. Now, if you came to me, Ben, and I looked at your financial statements and you had $0 in your bank account and you made $24,000 a year, which nothing to sneeze at, but $24,000 is not a lot of money, and you wanted to own a home, I would take a look and say your credit score is 500. I would be like, okay, man, like what's going on here? And we would have a conversation and we would put a plan together, and it would be your job to take action to come up with, to do that plan, right?
Right.
To get yourself into a place where you're more fit to own a home, because with that scenario, you probably aren't going to be able to get into a home. But if you came up to me and you're like, hey, Nick, I'm a first-time home buyer. I have a 700 plus credit score. I got a full-time job. I just started. I don't have a ton of money saved up. I have about $5,000. Is there anything you can do for me? And I'd be like, yes, I got a down payment assistance program for you. It's going to work absolutely awesome. Here's how it works. Here's what we're going to do. And great, gets with the great thing about this down payment assistance, because your portfolio, based on your portfolio, the money you make, so on and so forth, your profile, I should say, guess what? This is a true day one equity program. There's no second lien. FHA guidelines, no second lien, as long as you're, primary residence, there's no income restriction, nothing like that. Come on, let's go. You are somebody you can do that right now, and I'll get you into it. But once you get into the home, make sure you set this much money aside for budget. Make sure for repairs, because there's going to be repairs that you have to take care of. Don't let your home get dilapidated. Take care of things, right? So it all depends on the situation and the conversation we're having. But in some situations, the down payment assistance program is great.
Yeah.
It's great. You're coming in with 0%. And if your realtor does a real good job, maybe they get closing costs covered and you can keep that $5,000 in the bank account.
Right.
We can do that for you. Others can't do that. Go to a Movement Mortgage. Go to one of those places. They aren't doing that for you. They might get you a down payment assistance program, but guess what? That down payment assistance program has a second lien tied to the property. And guess what else it has? It says you have to stay here X amount of years.
Yeah, there's all sorts of strings attached.
And now your interest rate's higher because down payment assistance is typically higher because you're deemed more of a risk because you're not putting as much money down. So you're paying more. So that down payment assistance isn't actually day one equity.
It's not
It's you're paying for it over time with a higher interest rate. I don't use just Movement as an example. There's credit unions, banks, retail lenders, house shop, a bunch of different places. So we're going to, and here's the other piece. Those places might be good options for you.
Yeah.
They could be. It all depends on your individual situation.
Yes.
But we as the mortgage broker are going to shop that for you to put you into the best situation. And we aren't going to price gouge you.
Because flexibility. I mean, it's
flexibility.
It's important for a reason. Borrower said that for a reason.
Absolutely. Listen, I believe in this country. I believe in where we're going. I believe in the direction of the country. I'll believe in after these old presidents are gone and because it's coming. There's a reckoning coming. There has to be, because we can't keep down this path of running up debt, doing so on and so forth. But I definitely am going to believe in home ownership within this country. Even if we lose the world reserve currency, it's going to be better to own a home than not to own a home.
Oh, absolutely.
Plain and simple. Home ownership is a key. We're in a recession. We're going to be coming out of the recession within the next 12 to 14 to 16 months. That's all I got.
No, I agree. I mean, that's all I really got too, unless you want to speak more about education or you said you want to do something on becoming an LO.
Yeah, man.
You want to speak on that?
Well, one of the things I want to start educating people on is, and loan officers out there's a lot of people watch the show. We do a lot of business.
Yeah.
Would you say I do a lot of business?
Yes.
You process most of my stuff, right?
Yes.
I get business that comes in like that, and we do a really good job with it, and we continue to earn business, and we get things closed quickly. I want people to understand that we're in an environment where everyone's saying how bad the economy is. We're in a recession. We're this, that, we're that. You want to know what I want people to understand?
What?
None of that means anything. I want loan officers, mortgage loan originators out there. If you want to know the blueprint to success, I can show you. I'm not going to do it for you. We've had some loan officers come in here who thought I was going to do it for them. They're no longer with us. I can't do it for you. Nobody can do it for you. And it's not just being a loan officer, it's anything in life. If you want success, you have to go and get that success, right?
Right.
And listen, the political environment doesn't matter. The financial environment doesn't matter. None of that matters. You can have success in this environment as a mortgage loan originator if you get on your horse and you start getting up. And what I mean by that is make your calls. Go out and meet realtors. Go out and meet other members in the community. Go out and tell them what you can do for them and what you can bring to the table and how you can help them. We're in an environment right now, you just saw something about credit cards.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of equity in homes still. Maybe a HELOC might be a better option for the short term.
Yeah.
Go help a mortgage loan originator.
Not a 20% interest rate.
But yeah, we have, and I'm lucky because I work in a great company with people who are very knowledgeable, and we have a process that we've put in place that allows me to go and grind and grind and grind and grind and bring in business and bring in business and bring in business, and then it gets into the pipeline, and then our processors and our underwriters, they take care of it, and then we go to the lender, and we have some great lenders that we work with, and we have multiple options, and we can just do more. Nike has Just Do It, NBI Financial Group, we do more. Because it's true.
Right.
But the number one way that you get business is you make phone calls, and you make phone calls, and you make phone calls, and you keep making phone calls. So this is a tip from me, who's done $30 million in the last 6 months, to the other mortgage loan originators out there. If you want to be successful, you can still be successful in this environment. You need to make your calls. You need to set up meetings, and you got to not be afraid of the phones. There is nothing that is more important than making phone calls in this industry. Period. Yeah, that's what I have.
All right.
You want to add anything to it?
No, I mean, just that. I mean, it's good advice. I mean, I've had no sales experience coming into here. I mean, I've been able to get business just from calling.
Yeah, and you don't call enough.
No, I don't.
Not even close.
But I mean, I've been able to get some business in, and that's also while also handling a lot of the operations and processing part.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, yeah, it's definitely doable. You just have to put your fears aside, go out and actually.
I don't know what you'd be afraid of.
Do it. I mean, it's easy. I think a lot of people go through it. Just from talking with all our LOs, is like you make excuses to do it. I don't know if you're necessarily scared, but like you just make excuses instead of I'm going to prioritize this, I'm going to prioritize that. No, prioritize your calls. If you are trying to bring in business, prioritize your calls. Take that first step.
The other stuff doesn't matter. Whatever you're putting ahead of your prospecting, which is your call.
Yeah.
And when I say calls, make your calls. I don't say, hey, walk into the realtor's office and stop by. That's a good secondary tool that you can add to your arsenal. Bring a coffee by to a realtor, go grab a coffee. That's a secondary tool. The number one way you become a top producer and become a top producer in this industry is making phone calls. Making phone calls and telling people what you can do for them. Make 50 a day. I guarantee you, if you call 50 realtors a day as a mortgage loan originator,
yeah,
you're going to make a lot of money. It's just what it is. And you're going to help a lot of people. But you better call and you better provide value. And if you do that, you'll be A-OK. You'll be A-OK, even in this quote-unquote tough environment. Now, the one thing I do wonder is how many mortgage companies are going to go out of business.
Well,
Peace Home Point, RIP.
Yeah.
There's a couple mortgage brokers I want to go out of business. I'm going to help put them there.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Won't call anybody out on the podcast, but yeah, there's a couple that I'm not typically that type of person either. I typically want to see everyone succeed, but when somebody lies to your face, stabs you in the back, I'm going to do everything I can to bury that person. It's just my personality. Maybe it's not right. I'll talk to God about it when I get to the pearly gates, but that's where I'm at right now in life. What do you think, Ben? You don't want me to say the name, do you?
No, I don't.
I'm not going to. Not yet.
Wait until it actually happens.
I will. No, I am. I'll be like Ari Gold from Entourage. He goes in with a paintball gun, starts firing everybody. Yeah.
All right, last thing. You know what we needed to do?
No.
Tell everyone to hit that subscribe button, click the like button, and hit that notification bell so that you are alerted for all mortgage and real estate news. Make sure you follow us on all social media. That's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok,
TikTok's
and
our
YouTube.
biggest.
Yep. And YouTube.
YouTube's blowing up too.
Yeah.
And follow me personally. I'm Mortgage Man Nick, and you are
Big Boss Ben.
It was great talking to y'all. We're out. Thank you for watching. Peace.